Hey, I'm Randy, and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we help folks find high-value, hi-fi, home theater, and headphone equipment. I'm a pretty simple guy. I like pretty simple things. Cheeseburgers from Whataburger. Predator movies. Watching Predator movies with a cheeseburger from Whataburger or other places. And discontinued Wharfedale speakers. Today we're talking about the Wharfedale D320 bookshelf speaker. The whole line though is being discontinued. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the Wharfedale D320s, basically the whole series. Today's sponsor is Sith Audio audiophile toddler shoes. They only come one, so you don't get a pair, so you have to buy them individually. Make sure you buy a right and a left, unless something's wrong with your child. Sith Audio audiophile toddler shoes. Get ready to be shocked and awed at the amount of audiophile goodness that comes from this toddler shoe. Yeah, Sith Audio audiophile toddler shoes. $73 a piece. It's almost 150. It's a short 150. The Wharfedale D320s. All right, so there's a couple of bookshelf speakers, I think a tower, and then a center speaker. Wharfedale reached out to me and asked me if I'd like to review these and said they're being discontinued. And I was like, yes! Wharfedale Diamond 11.2 was one of my first videos where I found the Wharfedale, which was being discontinued. Great deal on them. I did a review. Similar thing here. So, 1-inch soft dome tweeter, 5-inch Kevlar reinforced woofer, bottom ported. See? Bottom port. On the back, there's 5-way binding posts. This is some type of wood vinyl wrap. Has a black front baffle. Braced okay. Typical what you're going to get in this price range. Specifications, what it's rated at. Rated down to 56 hertz, up to 20K, 87 dB, which means it's not super hard to drive, but not super easy to drive. Rated at 8 ohms nominal impedance on the Wharfedale website, but it said 4 ohms on the Crutchfield website. The Wharfedale website did say, though, that it will go down to about 3.8. I don't know, let's just say it's 6. Split the difference. It's a 6 ohm nominal impedance. I'm making it up right now. These are discontinued. Retail, $250 a pair. These are $179 a pair. Soundstage and imaging, good. Quite good. I didn't have really any issue with these soundstaging and imaging. Robert Smith from The Cure, Just Like Heaven, his voice was above the tweeters. Something in the Way, Nirvana, MTV Unplugged at the 5-second mark. Out of the left speaker, there's a cough. Depending upon how good a speaker soundstages and images, that cough can be inside the left speaker and way back. This was back, so it did a pretty good job. At the price range, they're doing a great job. We'll get into the treble, but there's a sound signature on this speaker that lends itself to soundstage and imaging. I wouldn't say these are super wide. Things did go outside the edges of the speaker. What surprised me was the vertical imaging, because I don't hear that a lot on a lot of speakers. Putting things in space was pretty good, pretty seamless. Chocolate Chip Trip did a good job of moving right to left, left to right. No complaints with soundstage and imaging. Let's talk about bass. Rocktopus is here. Bass. It's a good part of the speaker. It's real good bass. I'm just going to say that. This is fake. It's not a real face plug or whatever you call it. It moves in and out. So this is just a desk cover, which looks like a face plug. Still looks pretty cool. Bass rated down to 56. Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. That song goes really deep. And if a speaker goes pretty low, it gives you an idea of just how deep that sound goes. Kind of stopped a bit short. However, with Killing Strangers by Marilyn Manson, boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-da, boom. Very good. Very punchy. So punchy, good roll off though, because on Highway to Hell, I thought this speaker was bumped. When I'm hearing other songs, I'm like, this is bumped around 80 to 100 hertz or whatever. But Highway to Hell was very tight. So the bass response on this, I think, is pretty neutral. Doesn't go super far down, but for a speaker of this size, it does a pretty good job. As far as bass extension, I think in this price range, the Polk ES15 does a better job of going lower. Tonally though, this speaker is very good. I could hear a bit of space even with the bass on this from the MTV Unplugged Alice in Chains Rooster. And the first time I heard air and space in the bass was from the CSS Crichton. Now these don't have the bass that the Crichtons do, but it did give me a similar experience of sensing a largeness coming from the bass, not from the treble. I think the Wharfedale is beaten in bass quantity, but I think that's also boosted on the Polk ES15. But I think the old Wharfedale here out-finesses it. A little bit more articulate. Bass isn't muddy at all, and in this price range, I think this is probably the most refined bass out of Sony SSCS5, JBL Stage A130, Yamo S805, I say Emotiva B1 Plus. So, really good bass from a speaker of this price. What do you think, Rocktopus? Yeah. Rocktopus just says it all. You don't even have to say anything. Let's talk about midrange. Midrange. Shoot to Thrill, AC/DC. At the beginning of that song should come out of the right speaker. Some speakers like the Sony SSCS5, the JBL Stage A130, the Emotiva B1 Plus, the guitars. Sometimes it can be too gravelly, but not have any body. Sometimes it can have a bunch of body and not have a bunch of detail and gravel. It's just kind of right in the middle. I'm not saying it's the best mid-range I've ever heard because there was a slight lack of detail in it, but the clarity was still there. I still knew it was an electric guitar, did very good, but the overall mid-range characteristics lean a bit warm and buttery, and I like butter. Redemption Song, same thing here. So I just reviewed the Monolith Encore B6, and that speaker had a ton of bass, but didn't have a ton of clarity in the mid-range and the top end. The Wharfedale here gives you enough clarity, gives you enough detail that you're not thinking, ooh, this sounds veiled. So while this is not a detail monster when it comes to the mid-range, there's enough there to satisfy most people. So Redemption Song was good. His voice had detail. I could hear a little bit of the space in the acoustic guitars, a little bit more of the plucking when he's picking the strings with his fingers. Had just enough detail to sound realistic, but also had enough body to feel like, he's there. Now, he didn't sound like he was in the room per se. Good balance. Hello by Adele. So this is where it gets pretty interesting. Her voice sounded pretty good. She has a lower voice for a female singer. More detail started creeping in as she went up. So at the 29-second mark, she goes, healing. I don't remember. She says healing. Okay, 29-second. So there's good detail, and then when she goes healing at 29-second, oh, then there's more detail. So as you go up in the mid-range, the details get more and more present, which makes sense because the tweeter's taking over. It's not fatiguing either. At the 1 minute and 16-second mark, she says 1,000 times. 1,000 times! And sometimes on some speakers, that can be, whoa, that can really kind of come front and center right in your face. Not so. So what does that mean? The speaker is not fatiguing. Some speakers have resonance issues right there. Some speakers will get really forward right there. This did a good job. Kept everything in space. Quite nice. Let's talk about treble. Treble, Higher Love, Steve Winwood. At the beginning, there's a whole bunch of percussion. Rim hits, air, snap, reverb from the drums. That's all happening in the treble region. So the rim hits weren't perfect, but the snare hits did sound fantastic and were weighty. So there's a little bit lacking as far as real top end, as far as the sharpness to the sticks hitting the rim. Overall, though, did a pretty good job with percussion. I think this speaker is going to be beaten by the JBL Stage A130s, the Sony SSCS5s, and the Emotiva B1 Plus, when it comes to treble. Harvester of Sorrow. I watched that live last night. Not live in person, live on a television screen. That song, there is a ton of cymbals and a lot of offbeat cymbals too, which kind of just bring the cymbals out. They were just pushed way back. There was still detail here with the Wharfedales, but it wasn't front and center like on a lot of speakers. Again, Sony's, JBL, Emotivas are going to do a better job of cymbals. Cymbal decay, however, was quite good. Africa, the Weezer cover of Toto's song, the cymbals did hang out in the air. They were better than the Monolith, but again, you're going to get beaten by the Sony's, Emotivas, and JBLs. Treble is there, it's clear, it's apparent. Slight veil on the top end, lacks a little bit of sparkle, lacks a bit of air. Still good, it lacks a bit of air. What are my final thoughts? Final thoughts. Rocktopus wanted to share something real quick. Yeah. Rocktopus doesn't have any ears, so he doesn't do a very good job of reviewing hi-fi gear. Absolute pleasant surprise. I didn't expect this out of this speaker. When Wharfedale contacted me and wanted to send these out, I didn't know what to expect. There's not really any Wharfedale speakers that I've heard and I just didn't like. So I was excited to hear this. I didn't expect this. This is like a baby Wharfedale Diamond 11.2, and I love that speaker. Now that speaker was very warm. This is less warm, but kind of still maintains that same DNA. Wharfedale Diamond 11.2 is one of my favorite speakers. It's very different. It's a departure from most speakers. This one gives you kind of the vibe, gives you the warmth, but there's more going on the top end. Very impressed with this little speaker. Even at the retail of $250, high value. Again, departure from the Sony SSCS5, departure from the Emotiva B1 Plus, departure from the JBL Stage A130s. More laid back presentation, easier to listen to for a longer period of time. With a bottom port, you can put the speaker in a lot of different locations and put it right up against the wall and still not get a lot of boomy bass. So I like the choice with the bottom port. Gives one options. You don't have to pull it way out into the room. You can get it a little bit closer to a wall and not have to worry about a ton of room reinforcement. There's going to be some, but a little bit easier to work with than a rear ported speaker. Overall tonality of this speaker is fantastic because there's weight and warmth, gives an organic nature, hefty, present, just lacks a bit of detail on top. If it did have that, this would be really unbeatable. I think it goes toe-to-toe with the Polk ES15. Has a flatter mid-range, but lacks a little bit of the detail that the Polk gives you. Both great speakers, and depending upon what you want is which direction you should go. Easy recommendation. And the thing I like about this speaker and the Polk ES15, it's a bit of a departure. Most of the good speakers in this price range have the focus on the treble. The Polk and this Wharfedale pushes that emphasis down to the bass and really the mid-range here. So this is a great speaker that would go well with any of the ones I mentioned, Sony, Emotiva, JBL. Different sound signature will live well together and would be a great addition to have if you're on a budget, because then you can pull these out, get a different sound signature, have these out for a few months, put them away, pull out the JBLs or the Sonys or the Emotivas and be like, ooh, I get to listen to my music all over again. At $179, discontinued, I would run and not walk and pick these up if you're at all interested in them. Wharfedale does believe in burn-in. These have over 25 hours of time before they even hit my door. So keep that in mind if you do purchase these. Wharfedale believes in burn-in. Whether or not it's true, it doesn't matter. That's what the company says. Give this some time to burn in before you make a final decision on them, or just, put them in a room and let them play for a while. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant speaker. We got Rocktopus mugs. On the front, you got Rocktopus. On the back, it says, binge, listen, and fill your soul with happiness. Rocktopus mugs. Available from the merchandise store. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night, we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also buy a Rocktopus mug. Links in the description. You can also buy the Wharfedale D320. I always want to say 330. I think that's the tower speaker. Those are affiliate links, so if you purchase through those links, I will get a commission. You can also sign up for Amazon Music, link in the description, get a few months for free. Even if you cancel, I get a couple of dollars. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen through your Wharfedale D320s and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.